Hello everybody, Tim Norris here, aka GreyElephant.
Hey, this is Carmen, Elephant.
Coming to you from GreyElephant Gaming. Today we're going to talk about Terra Mystica. This is brought to us by Zman Games and plays 2 to 5 players in an hour to 2 hours.
When we first opened the box, I was really impressed with the artwork, the colors. The board is colorful, the player boards are colorful, the components are big and meaty.
Component-wise, I think the game looks pretty nice. I mean, it's nothing super fancy, but at the same time, I know when I opened up this box and I actually got to see all the components, and they were all these big, giant, chunky pieces of wood, I was really impressed by what I saw. Now, there are just some regular standard cubes and whatnot that represent workers, and I'd like to actually see them be in the shapes of workers, but overall, I think that I'm greatly pleased at what I'm seeing here visually.
Well, I've played the 2-player, 3-player, and 5-player games, and I would have to say that I really enjoy playing with all variety of players. If there's a negative to the 2-player game, I would have to say it can really mess you up if there's less interaction. You gain less power, and you have to pay more for trade houses if you have too much space on the board that you're not using. So you kind of want to plan on building next to each other, even though there's lots of room on the board.
What I'm enjoying about this game is that it always feels like you're making a sacrifice to perform any type of actions. You always feel like your resources are so limited that you can never really do everything you want to do, but yet you're always trying to plan ahead to the next round. Sometimes you're going to do things that just because this particular round, say for instance, putting a stronghold up is going to give you 5 bonus VP. Well, maybe that's not going to be the best thing for you, even though you'd like to get that bonus, but you've got to dig because otherwise your opponents are going to take your territory. So it always feels like you're trying to make the most of what you can on such a limited amount of resources available to you.
You know, I've got to say one thing I love about this game is the variety of races, because it gives you variety in gameplay, and it's a whole new game with different strategy with a different race that you pick. But that can also be a downfall, because some of the races are so much easier to use, some of them seem so much more powerful, so that can work to your advantage or your disadvantage depending on how you look at it. My husband and I play a lot of 2-player games, and we'll just decide ahead of time, okay, if you're going to be the weaker race, then I'll be a weaker race too, that way it's not too lopsided. Or you can work it to your advantage that way. If a player is more experienced and they need a handicap, then that might work well.
Depending on the amount of players is certainly going to affect your strategy as well. With 2 players, you don't feel very crowded on the board, but at the same time it becomes harder to build your trade houses. You do get a discount if you build a trade house next to your opponent, but at the same time you're only using about maybe, a third of the map for the entire game. Whereas when you go to 5 players, I mean, you really feel like you're trying to fight for every inch of ground because your opponents start gobbling up your territory and they start boxing you in. So certainly I think the game is fabulous for 2-player. I think it's fabulous for 5-player, but it's definitely a different approach depending on how many players are playing.
I am a huge fan of Euro-style games, and it kind of reminds me of Village a little bit, and the reason is because you're always making progress, and I just love that you're not attacking each other to the point that you're demolishing what you've built. You're always seeing what you've done and feeling that sense of accomplishment.
If I had to choose a favorite faction, it'd probably be the Halflings, because I really enjoy the fact that you get victory points based upon doing something you got to do anyways, and that's digging, and especially if it stacks with the round bonus. If I had to pick a second favorite, it'd probably be the Alchemists. I love them because you always seem like you're always $1 short in this game, and they can convert victory points into money for you. Fantastic.
Another race that I really prefer is the Witches, because they get a bonus whenever you build a town. And building a town is so much fun. I mean, it's such a sense of accomplishment already. And then you get another 5 points, and it's like, yeah.
Now, if I'm going to recommend this game, I want to make sure I recommend it to the right crowd. This is your heavier style Euro game. If you liked Belfort, I think this one's probably a step right above that. It's wonderful, but at the same time, it's not for newcomers. This is for experienced gamers. It's going to last you between 1 to 2 hours. I do believe it scales well between 2 all the way to 5 players. All around, this is a game that I have enjoyed tremendously.
I would say there's really a lot going on in this game. I would recommend it for a more experienced gamer, And I gotta say, I've been playing with people, and I've just been blown away. You know, I'm like, wow, I can't believe you just did that. It's really impressive sometimes.